Hello everyone, this is Todd Hefferman from the Southern Illinoisan, and welcome to our second podcast. My guest today is offensive lineman Bryce Wagner from Spring Grove, Illinois. He's a fourth-year junior, played in one game as a redshirt freshman in 2015 in the blowout against Missouri State, got into a couple more games last year, and is trying to get into the top 10 rotation this year. 6'8", better than 300 pounds. And the walk-on just got a scholarship earlier this week for his junior season. How did you end up at SIU? Well, colleges you looked at?
Well, actually, I ended up here because it was actually through the old offensive line coach that was here before this coaching staff, and he had a connection with my father, and he told me to come down here, had a visit. I fell in love with this place. They had offered me a spot on the program, and I of course took it because it was probably one of my only options at the time. It was either this or it was a Division III school or just going to regular school, no more football. And I knew I wanted to play football and I wanted to play it at a high level, so I chose to come here because this was the place that was for me, and it was a place that I was really excited to. I fell in love with when I was here. I'll say I was really excited to come here. So
what about it? What about the vibe of the place?
I think just how this place is, like, it's way different from where I'm from. I'm from a smaller town. This is like more bigger. It's not necessarily a city. It's bigger than what I'm from. So I think I liked getting away from home. I like being down here. I'm meeting the teammates. The older guys were really nice to me when I came here, and I thought they were really cool, and I fell in love with them. And they were one of those upper class of offensive linemen. They were one of the reasons why I came here, because their personalities were just off the charts, and it was so fun to play football and learn football from them and all that stuff at the collegiate level and everything. So,
what was your redshirt year like? What was it getting exposed to it, coming from the small town and seeing?
My redshirt year was definitely a culture shock. I'll say that for sure. I mean, like I said, coming from a small town, it's a completely different vibe here. Especially even with practices too. That was completely different from what I did. You know, this is a collegiate practice, and it's a lot more intense. It's a lot different from what I was used to as in high school and all that stuff. So it took some adjusting and all that stuff. But we had the whole summer to work on everything, knew what was going on, knew what to expect with that offensive line coach and what we were going to do in practices and all that stuff. And it was a good first year, that's for sure. It helped me learn the ropes. I mean, I didn't even know how to pass set when I came here. All we did was run the wing tee offense in high school. All we did was run block with chicken wings. I didn't know how to block with my hands, all that stuff. I couldn't do a pass set to save my life. So I learned all that stuff here. I mean, from the older guys, Corey Bomer, he was probably my biggest helper, biggest mentor that I had when I first got here. And he took me under his wing, and he was my locker mate, and he basically taught me everything that I know here, and to where I am now and all that stuff. So I'm really appreciative of that man. So,
did you play tackle? You ever play any guard in high school?
I was always tackle. I was always tackle in high school. I don't think I ever moved into guard. I might have. I don't think so. I think I was always tackle. I think I might have moved in maybe once or twice, but not at the varsity level. Varsity level, I was always at tackle. So,
is the left side really different from the right side?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different, I guess, because I'm right-handed. I always played in high school. I played left tackle, but the way I lined up was I didn't line up the way that you're supposed to here. I lined up in a right-handed stance on the left side, which is unheard of. You know, that's not how it should be done and all that stuff. But I took some adjusting because I first got here. I started playing right tackle, and then they bumped me over to left tackle, and that took some getting used to. And it was like I was at home again, because that was the side of the line I always played at, and that's when I learned I got better with my pass set and all that stuff, and got more comfortable in that stance as well. And now, I mean, I like both positions. I can play both, and it makes me I'm comfortable with both of them. So.
How do you feel about your depth on the offensive line right now? It looks like you guys have really got a solid 10, and a lot of guys trying to get into that 10.
Oh yeah. We have a lot of competition this year. That was the story going into this year, was just how much depth we have at this offensive line right now. This is a really good group of guys. I love working with them. The younger guys are really good hard workers, and us as older guys. I mean, me, Scoot, Oss, those two are senior leaders, and then us, Podge, and as juniors and all that stuff, we're trying to take them under our wing and all that stuff. And I mean, we have a lot of guys that can play this year, and that's what's so awesome about our offensive line right now, is we have so much depth, and now it's just fine-tuning it and getting everybody ready to play and make sure we're ready going into this season.
What do you remember about your first game playing against Missouri State?
I remember I was actually very excited because what was that? Was that my redshirt freshman year?
It was
I think
15.
Yeah, yep. So that would have been my second year, or my first like full year as being able to play and all that stuff. And I think we were beating them, and I had I was just happy to actually get in. I actually only got in for, what was it? I think it was two kneel downs. It was 2 kneel downs, but it was the best 2 plays of my life. You know, I was just like, I was so hyped going in there because I was all excited to play. I'm like, all right, let's go, and all that stuff. And went in there for 2, the best formation in football, as they say. So that was definitely a memorable experience. I remember calling my dad right after that and being like, hey, I got in and all that stuff. It was 2 plays, but hey, it was awesome. So I'm very appreciative of that.
And you progressed. You played in more games last year, and they awarded you with a scholarship Thursday night, I think. What was that like? Did you know what was happening when you got up there?
Absolutely not. I knew it. When he had called the 5 guys up there, I hadn't thought anything of it. I'm just sitting there. I'm thinking like, okay, he's just talking about these guys because they had really good speeches the previous nights, and these are guys that we want to represent as our program. These are real good, hard workhorses and all that stuff. So like I'm not thinking anything of it. Hans had his binder up there. I didn't think anything of that either because he's just a student of the game. So I figured he was just kind of holding his binder because it was like, oh, he had it in his hand. He just walked up there kind of with it. So and he calls me up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew exactly what it was at that point, and my heart was racing, and my whole body was shaking when I was standing on that podium. I was holding the podium. I'm just sitting there like I'm in shock. I'm just sitting there. I'm trying to take it all in, I guess, and I knew exactly what was coming. And then when he told Hans to had something in the binder, I had nothing but I grabbed it and gave Hans a big old hug, and it was definitely a great experience for me, that's for sure. And then I went and everybody came around me, and I gave Coach Hill a nice long hug as well because it means a lot, and I really appreciate that man for doing something like that for me.
He seems to appreciate not just your work on the field but your academic work as well. You really applied yourself when you weren't playing a lot. You got one of the highest academic awards 2 years in a row that this conference offers, and that can't be easy when you're a walk-on and you're not playing a lot. How did you do that?
Well, with that, it was always, I wasn't the greatest student in high school. I'll say that for sure. I was kind of lazy in the classroom, I should say. Because I was a good student if I applied myself to it and all that stuff. And I wasn't very good in high school and all that stuff. And I think that's another part of the reason why I struggled so much getting recruited, because my grades weren't so good and all that stuff. But I had made it a goal here when I came here to apply myself and be a good student. Not because by the end of my senior year, that's when I started to figure it out in the classroom and get my head in the books and all that stuff and get it all figured out. And I knew if I did good in the classroom, it would translate onto the field as well. If I'm leading by example in the classroom, I'll also lead by example on the field and all that stuff as well. And it kind of came from my parents as well, because my mom was really good in the classroom, and so was my dad, and they pushed me and knew I was smart, knew all that stuff. And it was kind of the point where it was like, I'm paying for the school right now, and so are my parents. Why am I going to let them down and give them bad grades? Because my parents aren't going to pay. Why would my parents or myself pay for a B or a C or a D or an F or a B? Because I tried to strive for A's as much as I could, because that was just it was unsatisfactory to get something below that kind of thing.
Now, what do your parents do for the paving company?
My dad, he's the vice president of operations right there. He works for Rabine Paving, and it's a group up north. They're centered out of Schaumburg, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. And my mom, she's a payroll specialist there. And then my dad, he's like a project manager. He kind of runs all the operations of construction, paving, and all that, the bidding and stuff. They're very busy folks, that's for sure. So I got to make sure that I'm doing my part down here as well, because they're putting a roof under my head and taking care of 4 other kids and all that stuff. So I need to make sure I'm doing my part down here as well. So
did your brothers play football, or did your dad play football? How did you get into it?
Yeah, I got into football actually from my father. We all kind of grew up around football. It was always football. Just everything was about it, and he didn't push it onto us. There was no pushing on us. We just had always watched it with him because it was something he did, and we got into it, and we started playing the little leagues and all that stuff. My brother who's he's 3 years younger than me, 2 years younger than me. He's a freshman actually at Arkansas right now. He plays football there for the Razorbacks, and he just early enrolled this spring actually, so he's rolling with camp right now. And then my dad, he played at Western Illinois actually. I know that's not good, no, not at all, but he played at Western Illinois, and so did my mother. She went to school with him, and that's where they met each other actually, was at Western Illinois. So that's kind of where we get our background from. My dad knows the game a lot, and we learned a lot from him just because he was an offensive lineman as well. He played center, but he knows everything with it, and that's where we learned most of our knowledge of football before we got to the collegiate level as well.
6'8", 338. How big is your dad?
My dad, he's actually 6'5", and my mom is 6'2". So that's where I get my dad jokes around and says it's breeding stock, and that's how he got it, because he said it was he said it was all the hereditary. He loves my mom for her size or whatever. He said it was the joke. Obviously, it's not for real, but that's what he jokes around with.
Where's your favorite place to eat here?
Man, that's a tough decision. I like to eat, obviously. All offensive linemen do, but I think I gotta say with Fujiyama. I think Fujiyama's probably my favorite place to go. Get some Japanese with the girlfriend or my friends, or I'll go to B-Dubs. B-Dubs never disappoints either. So.
And what do you do when you're not playing football? Do you have any hobbies?
Typically, if I'm not playing football, and I'm not doing school, it's either I'll be playing some video games, I'll be doing some work around the house. I just try to help out as much as I can, hanging out with my girlfriend, fishing. I enjoy to fish. When I do have downtime, I try to take advantage of it, and I just relax, watch some TV. The biggest hobby I think I have really gotten into since I've been down here was fishing. I never really was a huge fisherman until maybe my senior year. My friend actually got me into it, and that's when I kind of really started to get into fishing down here as well. So definitely a good time.
Bears fan?
Absolutely, yep.
How many games are we going to win this year?
I'm hoping that we are above 500 this year. I have a good feeling. That preseason game went pretty well the other night. I'm excited for Mitch Trubisky. I was a little nervous when I first picked him, but I'm all in with the Bears. I'm always gonna support my guys, and I'm always gonna be happy about it. So I'm pretty happy with Trubisky, and he played pretty good the other night. So
I sure hope you're right. I sure hope he's the real deal. We're gonna need his help. All right, Bryce.